My cousin said I was a loser until he realized I owned his company. I was sitting at my family's barbecue, eating my burger, and minding my own business. My relatives always saw me as the guy who did computer stuff all day instead of having a real job. They had no idea I actually owned a software company that I'd built from nothing over the past 8 years. We specialized in productivity tools for large corporations and had just acquired a major firm 3 months ago. Brad settled into his usual routine, looking me up and down with obvious disgust. He gestured at my faded clothes while adjusting his expensive watch, lecturing me about how I needed to dress like an adult instead of shopping at thrift stores. He said people would never take me seriously looking like a teenager. My jaw clenched, but I stayed quiet. The family nodded along like he was delivering profound wisdom. My aunt chimed in about how I couldn't live off my parents forever, while most people my age had real careers. She turned to Brad with admiration, asking about his promotion. Brad's chest puffed out as he launched into his success story, then pivoted to complaining about his new management. The company had been acquired by some tech startup and the new CEO was a complete joke. He called the guy a 20-some who probably learned business from YouTube videos. My uncle leaned forward with interest as Brad explained how the CEO never showed up to meetings, probably too busy playing video games in his mom's basement to actually run a company. He looked directly at me with a knowing smirk. My face burned, but I kept my expression neutral. Brad continued warming to his audience, explaining how this CEO probably made decisions based on TikTok trends. He said, these startup kids thought they were geniuses, but didn't understand real business, probably burning through investor money on fancy coffee and ping-pong tables. My aunt laughed about how at least Brad had actual skills, unlike these computer nerds who thought clicking buttons all day made them entrepreneurs. Brad explained how the CEO probably couldn't even afford a real office, betting he was running the whole company from some cramped apartment, eating ramen noodles and pretending he was Steve Jobs. I gritted my teeth as the attacks got more personal. My uncle joined in about how these tech bros were what was wrong with America, thinking playing on the internet was a real job. Brad leaned back smugly, explaining how he'd been doing the actual work while this CEO took credit for everything. The guy probably didn't even know how to read a financial statement, just another basement dweller who got lucky. My hands trembled slightly as I sat down my burger. Brad noticed and smirked. He reached over and grabbed my burger, taking a big bite while explaining how this CEO was so incompetent, he probably couldn't even run his own life, let alone a company. He chewed my food while speculating that the guy had never even been on a real date, asking what woman would want to be with some loser who played video games all day. The family erupted in laughter. My aunt wiped tears from her eyes as Brad continued his performance. He kept talking about how pathetic it would be to live in your parents' basement with no real job, no girlfriend, no future, just sitting there in pajamas thinking you were important. He tossed the rest of my burger in the trash, explaining how the company would probably fail within 6 months because the leadership was so weak. He was already looking for a new job before this ran everything into the ground. My chest burned as I watched him wipe his hands on a napkin. He pointed at me with a condescending smile. This is why you need to get serious about your life before you end up like these fake entrepreneurs who think they're hot stuff but actually know nothing. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I scrolled until I found the acquisition announcement from 3 months ago and turned the screen toward Brad. His face went white as he read the email from me to all employees, welcoming his former company to our organization. My signature sat at the bottom with my title as CEO and founder. Wait, that's not possible, he whispered, his voice cracking. I shrugged. I founded the company 7 years ago. We acquired your firm in March. The backyard went dead silent. Brad stared at the phone like it might explode. You're telling me you're my boss? I nodded. Have been for 3 months. I've been reading your performance reviews. His face cycled through 5 different colors. He started stuttering apologies, but I cut him off, telling him not to worry about it, and that he was actually doing great work. My aunt's mouth hung open, asking if I really owned a company. I explained that I owned the company that owned Brad's company, about 200 employees now. Brad looked like he wanted to disappear.